Good morning, everyone. We'll wait a couple more minutes for everyone else to jump on, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, we'll go ahead and get started since we're a couple minutes after 8. Thank you all for being here this morning. I really appreciate it. Hopefully y'all enjoyed sleeping in a little bit longer. If you haven't yet, don't forget to clock in so that you get paid. And we'll just jump right in. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is shifts for next week. So this week's shifts didn't change a whole lot for the playoffs, but next week will. We don't need all of the days that we scheduled to get through playoffs. And so some of your shifts got shortened for next week, and some got cut just because we don't need those shifts. If somehow something happens where we have a snow day or something like that, we'll put those back in if we need to, but we don't see that needing to happen since it's unlikely with the weather and everything like that. So those shifts did get cut. So sorry about that if your shift got cut, but that's why you got the email on Friday from When to Work, letting you know that you're no longer responsible for that shift. Bags. So I don't really have any reminders for bags. Any unusual situations from last week that we need to talk about to get ready for playoffs? Cool. Let's switch over to dodgeball. So I do want to have a discussion about championship officials and then kind of work our way backwards. So just to give everyone an idea, the championship night is going to be 2 semis and then a final, and then 2 semis and a final. So I'm only going to assign 2 crews. So for the semifinals, they'll work in pairs, and then for the final, they'll combine courts. And I think the fairest way to do it is we have an open and a co-ed. One of the crews is line judges for the co-ed, while the other one's the line judges for the open division, so that each crew gets to work like each position throughout the night. So we do need basically our top 4 dodgeball officials, because I think competitive wise, the leagues are going to be the same by the time we get down to the championship, the semifinals and championship. So I don't want to have like a top crew and and the crew right below them. I just want to have the top 4. So, and also to make scheduling easier, I'd like to find 5 so that if someone's unavailable, we can schedule that extra person, and then identify a couple door clerks, cleaners that earned a spot on championships, but maybe not on the court. So who are our top dodgeball officials?
I think Hamed's done really well.
Is that a general consensus? I know I heard his name last week too. So is everyone good with him working championships?
I can vouch for that. And I also think Peyton's really good. He just knows how to communicate to players and has a good presence on the court.
Okay. Is everyone good with Peyton too? Cool. Who else? Let me do this. I will pull up our dodgeball officials so y'all can see names. So just give me 1 second. Cool. Can you all see our officials? So I know last time we talked about Christian can probably work the first week, but not the second week. Is that still the case after last week?
Yeah, I'm very much against having Christian in a final personally. I don't think that he would be beneficial to a crew. Like I said, quarterfinal or semifinal though, or I guess quarterfinals.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think Andrew and I talked about it last time. He just doesn't seem like he's really in it right now at all.
Okay. That's good to know. Tyler Hutchian has had some positive feedback.
I was gonna say, looking at this list, the two names that pop out to me the most that have mid-set are Tyler and Hannah Drysdale.
Does anyone else have opinions on those two?
I've only
Very
worked
good.
with Hannah once and she did well, but I've worked with Tyler a few times and he's done really well both the times that I've worked with him.
Cool. And if we had to go with a fifth, would it be, I think Noah and Zane would be the next couple names that I've heard. And we can schedule both of them to keep our 6-person crew. They just wouldn't get to work. So are those two our next best? And like, if we had to rank order those two, who would be higher on that list?
I haven't seen Zane work dodgeball, but when I saw Noah, he was just a little bit quiet. But other than that, everything was pretty crisp, pretty good. So I'd put him at a 5, especially if he were to have somebody on his team that were to be a good communicator for him.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Noah over Zane. I just feel like even though they're both kind of quiet, but I feel like Noah, like when I walked in and had one of my games, the way he controlled one of the captain's meetings was really professional and really on top of it, which really set the tone for the rest of the game. So I think so that Noah's pretty good.
Cool. So the list I have rank ordered is Hamid, Peyton, Tyler Hutchian, Hannah, Noah, and Zane. We're good with that top 6? I'm getting nods, so I'm going to assume that is correct. So let me stop sharing so that I can get back to my agenda. Yeah, so the only reminder I have is like what I said with the breakdown of our sports or our games. It'll be 2 games, 1 game, 2 games, 1 game, and so we'll have that crew of 4 for both championship games. And I think it's going to be easiest and fairest to play those on court 1. That's where it's scheduled. And I know sometimes y'all just get to choose, or like the winner stays on one court and the winner from the earlier game moves over or something like that. But let's play on 1 just so that the balls rebound off the back walls somewhat similar instead of getting stuck in all the volleyball stands and things like that. Any unusual situations in dodgeball that we need to talk about from last week? Neat. Moving on to kickball. I also don't have any really reminders for kickball. So let's just jump right into officials. So this one, we would need our top 2 for championship night, and then our next as the door clerk, and then we'll pick 1 more in case one of the top 2 can't work. The door clerk would move up, and then someone would move into that door clerk position. So who would our top 2 kickball officials be?
I really think that Connor deserves a spot. He really stepped up when he worked with me. Like I've honestly, like, he gave the most effort out of anybody that I've seen so far. So, and he's like on top of it. And then with that, I think Logan as well. I think they'd be a really good pair out there. I don't know if anybody else has seen both of them work, but they're just really on top of it. They control the whole field and they're actually moving every time with every play. So
I've worked with Logan and she does a great job.
I agree with, I've never worked with Connor, but I also think Mitch is a really good official when it comes to kickball.
Okay. So I've heard Connor, Mitch, and Logan. Is there anyone else that should be in our top 2 conversation? Cool. So, if we have those three, so Connor, Logan, and Mitch, out of those three, who would be our best plate umpire?
Connor.
I second that.
Anyone have different opinions, or are we all good with Connor? Okay. And then out of Logan or Mitch, who would be the
Honestly,
best paid?
I worked with both of them, and I think like either one could do it. I think Mitch might just have a bigger presence because he's a bigger dude, but I think Logan did like a great job and like was fine doing it too. Like I really feel like either one of them could do it.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do either of them also do wiffle ball? I can't remember, but I feel like Mitch also does wiffle ball.
Yes, I believe Mitch does. Let's look. Yes.
Because I was gonna
Mitch-
say in that case he could be in the conversation for that too, but I don't know if there's anybody else that's really outstanding on top of that as well. But
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of have the kickball, wiffle ball discussion at the same time since there are shared. So with wiffle ball, Mitch would probably be in the top since it's almost the same sport. I know Hammond's a strong official, and we've talked about him as being really good at wiffle ball. And some other names that I've heard is Peyton and Tyler Franks. Are the ones that stand out from each week when we've talked about wiffle ball. Is there anyone else for the wiffle ball conversation that we should talk about?
Kyle Cunningham. Kyle Cunningham does a really good job. He's got great presence, good rules knowledge. Make sure that he's in control of the field when he's behind the plate.
I second that as well.
Okay, and he works both also. So from what I've kind of heard, should we go with Connor and Logan for kickball and Mitch and Kyle for wiffle ball, or is there anybody else in that discussion that deserves to be at least discussed? Okay, seeing a lot of thumbs up.
I think it's tough not having Hammond in the conversation for wiffle ball at least. Because I mean, I know he does baseball outside of just IMs and stuff, and I mean, if we were to do him in wiffle ball, something that I've noticed is he would rather be out in the field than behind the plate. He just is more interactive there, and he thinks it's more fun out there. So if we were going to consider him for home plate official, I say we don't consider him. But if people are comfortable with having him in the field, we should have a discussion about that because I think he's the best official we have overall.
Okay. So let me just see if we can move on from kickball. Are we good with Connor plate, Logan field, and then we can talk about wiffle ball and narrow it down? All right. So for wiffle ball, and then we'll go back and figure out who should be door clerk for those, because I think we can give those away. Not give those away, but we can assign those based on who falls out of this conversation with wiffle ball. So the three official umpires are Mitchell, Kyle Cunningham, and Tyler Hammond, right? Though that's who we have left to discuss. It's open for you all to kind of make your case for who you think should work which positions out of those three.
So just a thought about it too. I know for finals, we usually schedule just somebody specifically door clerk, then somebody specifically at each position. I feel like that crew, if we were comfortable with it, that crew's strong enough where we could have them rotate throughout the night. One door clerk, one B field, one at plate, and then rotate through those three. Because I think it's going to be tough choosing two out of those three. I think all three would deserve it. So if you're comfortable with that and that's an option, I think that would be something that could be a positive one.
I think under normal scheduling that would work, but I believe, and I'm double checking, and maybe Adam, you remember, I think wiffle ball only has 2 games on its final night. Or is it 3? Is it 3? Wiffle ball only has 1 game on its final night. So we have quarter. So on Tuesday next week, we have quarter, semi, and then Thursday the 19th only has 1 game. So
For wiffle
rotating
ball?
would.
Wait a minute. Are you talking wiffle ball, Matt?
Nope, I'm talking kickball. Sorry.
Yeah, kickball only has 1 game for the final. And that was done intentionally because that's the same night as bowling. And I know a lot of people are playing all the same sports. So I'm trying to allow them to potentially play kickball and get to bowling if they would make the finals.
Cool. Yep, I clicked on the wrong one. So yeah, wiffle ball is semi-final. So we can do that with those 3. But I think we would need to go ahead, Greta.
I was just gonna say, something to consider. I mean, not just saying that our team is gonna make it, but Kyle and Tyler are on a team together. So if we want to come up with something, as like a backup plan if we do make it, because then they're gonna need someone to cover them. Just a thought, just thinking ahead.
Okay. Cool. Thank you for that information.
Hey, Matt
Yeah.
and Adam, I just looked on IM Leagues and it says the semifinals and champs are on November 16th, which is that Monday.
Yep. Yeah. So I had opened the wrong one. I'd opened kickball instead of wiffle ball when I was looking. So kickball is 1 game, and then on the Tuesday, but yeah, wiffle ball is 3 games on that Monday.
3 games.
Yep. So let's make this crew, and then we'll come up with who can fill in their spots if they make it to the championships. So I think if we're good with those 3, I'm good with that, and rotating them if everyone feels comfortable, since you all are the ones that have seen them work. But I think we needed to figure out of those 3 who are going to be on who's going to be on the championship field, and we can rotate through the semis. But rather than leaving it up to chance that night of where they shake out and end up for that 9:45 game, I'd like to know what that rotation is going to be. So, out of Kyle, Hammond, and Mitchell, it sounds like from the discussion, Hammond may be the best field umpire we have. Is that correct? So, assuming that that somehow they don't make the championships, we'll have Hammond in the field. And then out of Kyle or Mitch, who is the better home plate umpire? And it may come down to who's the better communicator with staff. Sorry, not staff. Who's with participants? Who gets less flustered and can explain things if there's an explosion? Because really, we're making a couple decisions. We need to know when to rotate as the plate umpire, but a lot of it is going to be communicating with the bench and the dugout and things like that. So out of Mitch and Kyle, who would be best equipped to do those things?
The last one I worked with them, I noticed like Mitch was just a little more quiet. So as being a home like Kyle might be more fit to like be the louder communicator. But other than that, there's really no difference that I really saw, because they both work the same shift and they both work together and they both work well together. But I just thought Kyle was a better communicator on the plate, just louder, so everyone could hear him and like understand his rules and what he was saying.
Cool. Thank you for that. Is that a general consensus? I saw a couple nods, but if anyone has any other info. Good with that?
I was just gonna say the biggest, I feel like the biggest toss up would be Mitch for field, but I know obviously Tyler, I feel like, has got that one in the bag, because I feel like Mitch is more comfortable in the field. So I would second putting Kyle at the home plate if we're gonna put Tyler in the field.
Okay. So that's what we'll go with for the championship, is Kyle and Hammond. Now, if they make the championship, we're going to have to find 2. So Mitch would move up. But who would our next best wiffle ball official be? And let me pull it up and then share my screen to help y'all out with recalling who works that sport.
I thought
so let's pick
Drew did a really good job.
Drew.
I haven't worked with them back. Has anyone seen?
I've only seen him work kickball, and he did a really good job. But I haven't seen him like transfer that over into wiffle ball. But I mean, they're the same thing, so I don't know.
I talked to Tyler about it, and he's only worked like a few wiffle balls. I think he worked a lot more kickball. But he's really good at kickball, so maybe he could do it. But he did well when he did wiffle ball too. So
Someone who I haven't really heard the name of, who I've seen only once, but she did a really good job, was Casey. I'm not sure how anybody else feels, but she did a really good job when I saw her.
I agree with Casey. On top of that, I also think Emily J. And if you guys said her, I'm sorry, I just stepped away to blow my nose. But I think Emily J is really, really strong.
Casey did really well last week. She was a really good home umpire.
Cool. So the three names that I heard was Casey. Well, four names: Casey, Drew, Hutchian, right? Or was it Franks? That the Tyler Franks. Cool. Franks and Emily J. So I think, well, I don't want to give anyone a position just based on their identities. A lot like the wiffle ball crew right now is all men. And so I think that that's important for us to think about when we're thinking about when we send out the email to the whole staff, who are we assigning championships to? And again, I don't want to just give positions away to tokenize individuals because we want certain identities working championships. But if we have people that are capable, I want to make sure that that they're on our championship games, and we have kind of as inclusive a group working those championships, rather than, you know, some of our staff thinking, well, it's just going to be these five that get to work every championship until they graduate, and then maybe I'll get a shot. So so again, Casey, Drew, Tyler, and Emily J. So I'd like to identify the next two. That way, if we have to move two up, we still have a door clerk. So Mitch is going to be that door clerk for the championship. All three will rotate. But if we need that fourth, I want to find a fourth and a fifth just in case.
I vote Casey. Casey's like always, she's very consistent in every sport, and she's just super consistent as an official.
I agree.
We're good. Everyone's good with that.
Yeah, I agree with them. I haven't really worked with Casey during wiffle ball or kickball, but every time I've worked with her, she's really good at like explaining the rules very calmly, and I think that would be like a good attribute to have during these later games.
Then I think Emily J has done a really good job as maybe number 5. I know I haven't seen her in wiffle ball, but in kickball, she was really doing well.
When I worked with Emily J for wiffle ball, she was like kind of hesitant at first because it was her first shift. But after that first game, after she was able like to clarify some stuff and ask some stuff, she was really, really confident with herself. And honestly, she was able to communicate. There was a play where she was able to just take time. She looked at home plate. It was a play at first, and the foot was off the back, but she couldn't tell. And she's the one who initiated the conversation and everything. I think that she's a really strong official.
I think Emily also does a really good job at like recognizing when she's wrong or like makes a mistake on a call, and then she asks questions on how she can fix it, and then she's really good at adjusting to like feedback that we give her, or like that the other officials help her out with when she does miss a call or makes a mistake.
Cool. So I think the easiest way, since we've had a couple people talk about Casey, a couple people talk about Emily, is just a straight vote to figure out who would be the first backup and then the second backup. So I'll ask you to either raise your hand or the digital like just give me a thumbs up or the clap emoji, whatever emoji is easiest for you to get to. So we'll do Casey first and then Emily. So if you think Casey is
hey
the
Matt,
better.
can I interrupt super quick?
Yep.
Sorry, I haven't worked wiffle ball or kickball at all. So is it okay if I sit out the vote since I don't have a good opinion on who would be better?
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else not feel like they have enough information? Like maybe you only worked week 1. And if you feel strongly, you can still vote. I'm not telling you because you haven't worked since week 1 that you shouldn't vote, but just so I know as we're kind of counting. So we'll do Casey first and then Emily. So this is like the first backup and second backup. So first backup being Casey. Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. So I think mathematically, since y'all are only going to get to vote once, it's going to be Casey and then Emily. Does that work for everybody? Sweet. Stop sharing. And then, so now let's go back to kickball and talk about a door clerk and if that door clerk can move up if one of them can't work or not. So I wanted to talk about Josh just because he's gotten a lot of positive feedback. I know he hasn't been able to be on the field at all in season 2, but every manager report I've got back from that when he worked is that he had a great attitude. He was awesome on the sideline, great scorekeeper and door clerk. So I did want to talk about him, but if there's someone that has equally done that when they've been door clerk and been on the field and deserves that spot, I want to give the door clerk position to the next most deserving individual. So if that's not him, that's completely fine. And if it is him, then we still need to find an alternate that can work on the field in case Connor or Logan can't work that night. So
I'd say Josh or Emily.
I was going to throw in Tyler Franks as well.
I think Josh deserves it. He's done a great job. I mean, I've played a bunch when he's been door clerk and he's supposed to be on our team and he still had a good attitude. But then also the times that I've worked, he's just been great. He's been definitely improving as the semester's gone on and his attitude has stayed the same. So I'd say Josh.
Yeah, I second that. Even though he's like really limited to only doing door clerk, he really takes it by the hand and he makes the best out of it. And he's always on top of it. Like you never have to like make sure like all about all these things. He's just on top of it. He has everything done for you when you needed to. So he's been really helpful. And especially with his circumstances, he's had a good attitude about it too.
I was gonna say, yeah, his attitude's really infectious. It's just like a really positive situation going for the whole rest of the crew whenever he's there.
Cool. So we'll give him door clerk. And then if Logan or Connor can't work that night, because again, there's only one game, I heard Tyler Franks and Emily J. So out of those two, who would be the most deserving of the championship game?
The only difference between the two that I've really noticed that Emily J is a lot louder. Tyler is confident with everything. He knows the rules really well, but he's pretty quiet when he's on the field. Even like when we're communicating, like just me and him when we're talking, sometimes he's pretty quiet and just seems just kind of like maybe not shy, but just like not like he's putting like maybe 1,000,000% into it. So I would say Emily J just because she's louder. Honestly, that's really it.
Cool. Any other opinions? Andrea, I know you're the one that threw out Tyler Franks. So do you think he deserves it over Emily, or sorry to put you on the spot?
I don't know. I haven't really worked with Emily, so I don't really know. I just know Tyler's just always constantly asking questions. Like whenever I work with him, he always is like communicating with me, trying to get better, and I really appreciate it because he's willing to make that effort. So that's why I chose Tyler. So.
Also, since we did give Emily that other alternate, I think that it could also be fair to give Tyler this alternate. if people want to look at it that way too.
I second that.
Yeah, I think it is going to be, well, I don't want to say it. I think it's less likely that Emily will get to work wiffle ball than work since she's 5th on the list. And like, that's just going to be internal to us. Like, that's not going to be announced, like the list of alternates. We're only going to need it. Like, we're only going to get there if Kyle and Hammond play in the championship game.
Oh, we will.
I feel like I've heard that before. I hope you do, because that'd be neat for you to win a shirt. But we've had managers be pretty confident before and somehow get snake bit on the way to the championship. So let's do a vote, because I think that's the best way to move on. We'll do Emily first and then Tyler. So raise your hand for Emily being the first alternate for kickball. Okay, and then how about Tyler? Okay, it was a 4-3 vote, so we're gonna go with Tyler. And if somehow we need to get to a second alternate, I'll write Emily down so that I remember that she's that person if we need to get that far. Thank you all for your input on crews. Let's see, we started with kickball. Any unusual kickball situations from last week that we need to talk about? Cool. Wiffle ball, unusual situations.
It wasn't like necessarily unusual, but I know that the officials came and talked to me afterwards. The person that kicked it, it went pretty high up, and they like 2 different instances the ball hit the ceiling. On one of them, excuse me, on one of them it was like already like out of bounds or like foul territory, and then because it hit the ceiling it bounced in. So then I think Casey did a really good job of explaining that it was already like out, and then because it intersected like the roof it came back into play. But then the other one was play, but then it rolled out before it got to the base. Wait, what did it do? But she called the right play. I'm not remembering the exact circumstances, but it may be like going over that. I don't know if that happens a lot, but for it to happen twice in the same game within like an inning from each other is pretty weird. But when it's out in foul territory and it hits that ceiling, and then when it drops, it comes back in, that's still a foul, right? Like foul ball.
I can't remember what we've decided, because I know we've had a lot of discussion about playing off the roof.
Did you say if it hits something in foul territory?
It hit the
doesn't ball
ceiling in
become-
foul territory.
Yeah, it
Doesn't
hit
the ball
the
become
ceiling in
dead
foul
immediately?
territory.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then in fair territory, it's live. Is that what we decided last year? Okay.
Okay.
And
Just
then your
curious.
Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Just curious, how come we play it off the ceiling? Like, is there no way to just call it like not a foul, just like dead ball and just redo?
We play it because when baseball is played in a dome, the ceiling is fair territory. It's just like the sky. So they actually, even if it hits in foul territory, I believe it comes down in fair. There's not that many domes anymore in baseball. But I believe it's played as if it went up into the sky and came down. But if it never comes down, it's a ground rule double. So that's kind of where we derived that from, is it's played off the ceiling in other sports. And so we played it off the ceiling for kickball.
If it were to go up to the ceiling, get stuck in the lights or something, would we just call that a ground rule double then? what would we do for that?
Yeah, I think we would have to call a ground rule doubles because we don't have anything in our rules for it, and we would revert back to the next closest rule book. I hope that never happens because I don't want to have Brittany email athletics and tell them that we have a kickball stuck in their lights. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. And then Megan, I think the second scenario you were talking about was a ball was kicked, it was rolling in fair territory, but then rolled foul prior to getting to first base. And then that would be a foul ball because it didn't cross first base in fair territory.
Yeah, okay. Just double checking. That's what we thought, and she ruled those, so that's good.
Yeah, if it hits in fair territory beyond first base or third base and then goes into foul, it is a fair ball.
It would have been fair, yeah.
Yep. Anything else from either wiffle ball or kickball? Sweet. Let's talk about free throw competition. How did it go, and suggestions for the next time we run this?
I highly suggest we do it as a co-ed because all the like top 8 or whatever that we did have were all men, and then all the women fell below. Not saying like, I don't know. I just think to be more inclusive, because then give some girls a chance to win a shirt and stuff.
Only thing about changes on the sheet name, having the player name and the team name on it, because I think it was only the team name, and then having to find like what player correlated with what team was kind of confusing sometimes, but that was really it.
I think any way to just promote it a little more, because I think more people would do it. Like half the people we got were there because of bags, and then they came to shoot. So I don't really think that many actually signed up originally, just from us like asking them if they'd want to shoot before they left. But I think a lot of people like to do it, and then I agree with Greta doing. I mean, as long as we get enough, you could do a men's and women's division.
Yeah, or even like if we're not able to get enough, I don't know if there's like a way that we could like find a proportional way out of like the top 5 to make sure that we do have like 2 of them being women or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and just to give a little bit more information, on a normal year, this would have been in the rec, and it would have been for the same amount of time on a Tuesday and Thursday, and so we would have had the officials during downtimes walking around, pick up basketball and the weight room and stuff, trying to recruit. Usually, this is predominantly a drop-in sport, and it's just different this year because it's hard to do drop-in, and really the only people that were around were bags. So on a normal year, we would have had probably some more shooters from drop-in and things like that because it happens in the rec, but it was just obviously with COVID, we can't be in the rec and there's no basketball and all that stuff.
Can I ask how you all as students want to receive, you said like promote it more. Where in your mind as a student would you like to see this promoted, or how?
I know that they normally do a lot of the promotion on the Instagram, but I don't think I saw anything about like any of this season sports up on the Instagram, or like that the free throw thing was happening, which I know that a lot of people like use Instagram, and that's like a nice place to check for like updates like that. So that was just something I noticed for these events that I never saw, because they normally have like upcoming and intramural sports, or like registration is open today for X, Y, and Z, which is really helpful just as like the reminders. So I don't know if there's something we can do to like make like ensure that they're able to put something out on that, or I don't know.
Yeah, we don't control those, and when we request them, that's in our request. But you're right, sometimes it doesn't happen. And so maybe because they don't, do they usually? I don't follow us on Instagram. Is it like every event, or is it just kind of random when like they post? in terms
I
Normally,
feel like, sorry, go ahead, Greta.
oh, okay. Yeah, I just noticed that normally they do it like right at the beginning of the season for like all the main sports that are happening that season. And then I'm pretty sure last semester, even like when we went into the whole quarantine thing, they were still like posting about the tournaments online, like right when the registration opened for them and stuff like that. And they just had like a fun little visual that popped up on their story.
I know I've
If
seen
they
a ton from like the outdoor programs like on for this semester, and I haven't really seen anything from IMs. Not that I'm biased or anything, but I think IMs needs more Instagram time. So
Yes.
Also, I don't know if like on CSU's actual rec homepage we ever like promote the sports, but it seems like you have to go to IM League. So if kids don't really know about it or check IM Leagues, they wouldn't really see all the sports we get. But maybe like on CSU's rec homepage, I bet they get a little more people on that website if we had just like some little ad there, or just like if they post it there for like just when sign up is going on, that might help too.
Would it also be okay if we promoted it like on our own Instagrams and like we sent it in the manager group me and like if you wanted to, or is that not allowed?
I think you could repost or share something from the rec. But so the way that the rec does social media is everything runs through our marketing department. So like we won't ever be able to create our own content or have our own platform. So they want to kind of, they know when most people are on social media and what's most effective, and they know how to balance everything. But yeah, I mean, if there's something on our Instagram that you see that you want your friends at CSU to see, you're more than welcome to share that, or repost whatever we have put in. That's definitely more than okay. But we unfortunately we can't make our own content like as an intramural area within Campus Rec.
So we couldn't like get a general message approved and then we just like switch out like the sport and like the sign up day. We couldn't have like a general message that we approve that us as a staff could promote through the marketing department.
We could ask. My assumption, because timing is really important for social media posts and like not overwhelming people, because then I think if you post too much, like my knowledge is very limited, but if you post too much, people stop listening to your posts. And so I think that's why our marketing department really wants to make sure that they're being intentional about how many posts a day, what time of day. So we can ask if they would let us just use a template, but then we don't have control over the Campus Rec Instagram. So it would still be really hard for us to push that through our social medias for then you to post. And I don't know if they would be comfortable with you all as staff members posting original content, even if it's from a template. So we can definitely ask.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I doubt they would approve us to post anything on their behalf. I just don't see, in terms of what we've currently asked for in the past, we can ask again, definitely, but I don't see marketing allowing us to do that. And it doesn't mean we can't revisit it. We have a new marketing staff right now, and there's been a lot of turnover in that area. So it wouldn't hurt to at least ask again.
Yeah, I just feel like if there's a way we could try to like talk to them and maybe like come up with like as a manager team like a proposed thing for like even almost like an intramural Snapchat, because just having like an update that just reminds you, just like a small thing like, hey, registration's open, or hey, registration is closing today. And especially for the people that are like huge into intramurals, I feel like they would really appreciate that because they actually care about wanting to know those updates and stuff. So I feel like that's something that in the future, I feel like we should try to look at incorporating somehow or like bringing up to marketing, like, hey, like we could promote this at all the intramural events, be like, hey, if you want, you can add us on like Snapchat or something and we'll give you updates on like when registration stuff is, because I feel like especially for the people who are actually interested in IMs, that would be beneficial and they'd want to jump on that.
I think even something as simple as just advocating for just a post on Instagram, because we get like the story updates, but those aren't always 100% of the sports that we offer, and also those are gone in 24 hours. Whereas like if we could just get one post out, we could list what everything we have in one area, and then also if people need to come revisit it, it's easy access.
I agree with that. I feel like we could advocate for at least a little bit more, almost like recognition from like the rec as a whole for the department. And I think a post would be great because then, you know, like Matt said, you can come back and revisit it. You can bookmark it. You can do a bunch of stuff with that just so you know like the actual dates. I feel like we could at least ask for more advocacy from the rec, like as our parent organization.
Cool. Yeah, I think all these are really good ideas. We'll definitely try to have a discussion with marketing and brainstorm what we can do as far as intramurals versus working with them. And so from kind of what I'm hearing is you all think social media is going to be the best vehicle to get information out, and the emails that are sent out through IM leagues and those reminders are not going to be as effective as emails, right? Is that kind of what I'm getting? So because I know Adam sends out an email every time registration's opening for new sports. If you've registered for anything in the last year on IM leagues, you're going to get an email saying these are the registrations that are opening today. And so those you think get ignored a little bit more than social media might?
Yes. But I feel like once we implemented that texting thing, that helped. But also when you got the message, it kind of came up weird. I don't know if that was the same for anybody else, if anybody used that setting. But the text messaging was nice. And if we did something like that, I feel like people are more likely to look at it, because with the emails, if they say IM leagues, because you always get like, if you sign up for like a reminder of your game, you get like the message if you win or you lose. So sometimes people just go through that because it's stuff that they've already seen and they see it's from IM leagues and they're like, oh, I know I already like I have a game or something like that.
Okay.
Plus, I think there's a lot of contact through email right now with online schools. So I know, at least for me, like my inbox will fill up if I don't check it in half a day. And then I have like 50 emails I have to go through. And, you know, I just get pretty tired and I just start to clear out emails that I know may not be as important, which probably isn't good. But maybe that's also kind of the mindset that some students are in right now.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, again, I think it's going to be a conversation about what we can and can't get in terms of social media, because every marketing request we put in asks for a social media post on the first day of registration. I think sometimes they forget which ones they're going to pick because we have rolling registration and we have things that are so much more than any other program area. They don't have registration basically every week of the semester. And so I think sometimes they forget that intramurals has so much going on, and they often only post when league sports are open instead of a free throw contest or something like that. And so all that being said, with the new marketing personnel, it would be worth us talking to them to get a better understanding of how they choose, and maybe we can identify, maybe they're going to give us 5 or 6 a semester, and then we need to identify which ones we want instead of asking for all of them, because they're not doing all of them anyway. The other thing I wanted to say about the free throw contest, because I believe that's where we got started on all of this, is for next semester, our programming is likely not going to be able to change a whole lot in terms of what we offer, unfortunately. And so would it be better to run, like, so for basketball in particular, we'll probably run this again. We'll also run a 3-point contest, and we'll also run potentially a hot shot, which we've done in the past. I don't know if any of you all were part of that. I can't remember the last time we ran hot shot contest, but would it be better to do those kind of consecutively week after week to capture all like basketballers, or separate them out like throughout the semester?
I think it would be cool to kind of do it like back-to-back weeks, because then it's kind of almost like replacing our basketball season, which I know it's not much for a replacement, but it's still something. I don't know if maybe we could add, like, I don't know if you remember like the mic and drill or whatever, and like time it and like, you know, have 2 balls there or like 1 ball, and just time it for like a minute and kind of just like add to it. So it's like a huge like basketball skills thing, since we can't really do a full basketball season, like just do kind of like drills like that, or I don't know what the hot shot was, or like kind of do some like around the world or something like that, and kind of count out how many, and then you can get like different points for specific competitions, and then overall there's like a basketball skills winner or something like that, because I know a lot of the basketball folk are missing out on participating in stuff.
Cool. Thank you for that. I do want to acknowledge, obviously, the meeting that we start a half hour late because we haven't used a full hour and a half is the one that's going to go longest for the semester. So if any of you need to leave for class or anything like that, you're more than welcome to at 9. I want to honor your time, but I do appreciate all of the discussion. So I do want to keep working through the agenda if you're able to. But if you do have to leave for class or something else that you have at 9 o'clock, you can do that, because that was the time that we told you this would be done. So, but I don't want to cut our discussion short. So I just wanted to say that before we continue either talking about basketball or whatever is still on our agenda. So really quick, I'm going to jump on this also. And it was going to be in my 2-minute drill. But because the programming is not going to be that different, like our restrictions are not going to be that different, I want you all to start thinking about other sports and events that we might be able to run next semester with the same kind of guidelines that we've been given this semester. And we'll talk about that at our end of the semester meeting, which I'll talk more about in my 2-minute drill. But just if your wheels have been turning this semester about stuff that you thought would be cool where we can still socially distance or anything like that, we want to be able to talk about those sports at that end of the year meeting. So anything else on Adam's question about basketball, the 3 different types of competitions, running those back-to-back weeks or spread out? Cool. Anything else on free throw besides marketing to try to make it a little bit better for next semester or next year? Sweet. Moving on, so table tennis, we have 16 teams. Last I looked, there was 2 on the wait list, so we'll have to look at our capacities and see if we'll be able to add some. In the past, we've been able to add people or tell our waitlist teams to show up. So if someone does not show up, that they can get plugged into the bracket. So Adam and I will have a discussion about that and then let y'all know. And then bowling, we have 18 teams. We are figuring out with the new restrictions that Larimer County rolled out on Friday, if those will affect, I'm going blank on the name, chippers. So we don't know if it'll affect, or maybe Adam does know by now.
They're telling me that they can only accommodate 16 lanes now. However, We have a lot of teams that only have 3 people on there. And so they can have 16 lanes with up to 6 people per lane, even though our sports are 4-person teams. There's always a couple of teams every tournament that don't actually have 4 people. And so if that's the case, we'll still be able to accommodate all 18 teams. They'll just have a couple of them share lanes, which hasn't been done in the past. And so once that roster deadline hits, we'll be able to figure that out. So it has had an effect. Hopefully we won't have to cut teams, but there is a possibility that if by the time the roster deadline hits this weekend, if everybody's at 4, we're going to have to cut teams. And that's just unfortunate, but that's the world that we're living in right now.
Cool. Let's talk about official of the week for last week. This is the audience participation part of the meeting where you all nominate an official that you saw work hard last week.
Has Josh Ear gotten it? I know that we talked about him earlier, but he has gotten it.
Yeah,
Cool,
he
never
got
mind.
it, I think, middle of last season.
Okay.
Has Kyle Cunningham gotten it?
Not this semester yet, no.
Then I'd like to vouch for him just because he always shows up and he works hard and he has a very loud voice and he's in a very good mood and he always talks to the participants, which I know a lot of people kind of have shied away from with this distancing and having a mask on, since it's kind of made it a little bit harder. But he's always like talking to people and, having a good time, but also making sure to, work hard and move to the plays and take time and, make the calls.
I second that.
Okay, that's 2 for him. Anyone else feel strongly about someone, or are we all good with Kyle? Cool. We will nominate Kyle. Props.
Props to you, Matt, for letting us sleep in half an hour. It helped.
Good deal. Yeah, no problem.
Props to Gianna for the little switcheroo we did.
Cool. Any last minute props? Sweet. New world champion.
I'd like to give it to Nick. I think he just always works really hard, and I think he's been a great example of a manager to look up to. And I think you kill it, Nick.
Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you for that. All right. 2-minute drill. Does anybody have anything? Adam.
Since playoffs have started and it went out in the playoff email, almost every single sport is going to have a doubleheader on almost every single night of the week. So make sure this is for our office managers. It's all on our checklists that we're looking on that and we're labeling score sheets as we've done in the past. This is also on our managers when you're starting the night. Make sure you're checking the schedule, checking those score sheets. If there's like a blank in the schedule, it's because we don't know which team is going to play in that spot yet. It's probably going to be a doubleheader play-in game. So just make sure you're acutely aware of that going into your shift, so we can limit and eliminate all the confusion that surrounds.
Yeah, with that, let's make sure that we are the ones communicating with teams. So when your officials show up for the night, remind them that if anyone asks when they play next, that they should not answer and just refer them to you, because you have the bracket. We've had situations in the past where teams told us that officials told them that they could go home and then they forfeit later in the night. So we don't want any of that information coming from the officials unless it's written on top of the score sheet that they're holding that says this team plays in an hour. But so all like, when do we play next questions should go to you. If you don't know, you can pull up the bracket on IM Leagues. You should have a bracket in your binder, or you can tell them to look ahead in the bracket if it is their second game of the night and you know that, and they want to know when they play next. Even before it's filled in IM Leagues from us, the bracket is there so they can look ahead and know when their next game will be. But let's make sure that we are diligent in how we're telling people and we're giving them the right information. Anybody else for 2-minute drill?
Yeah, I just have a quick reminder because I know it happened last season and we didn't have a manager meeting afterwards to talk about it, but make sure if officials are if they have to write someone on the roster that they're physically on the IM Leagues roster since it is playoffs now. Because last season we had an official write on someone who wasn't on the roster and it was playoffs and we had to like make sure they were okay and get them on and everything. So just a reminder to us to let the officials know.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anybody else before I share my 2 minutes? Cool. So I'm going to be sending out an email either later today or tomorrow asking what your schedule is the week after fall break. So we know that all classes are going online and everything is virtual, even if you've been hybrid this semester after fall break. And so we want to have our end of the semester meeting as managers to talk about all of our sports from this year that first week rather than waiting till finals like we usually do so that it's still fresh in everyone's mind. But I don't know if you have like asynchronous classes where they're recorded and you're going to watch them, if you have to actually be at your computer. Hopefully you all know what that's going to look like. I don't know how many professors are just going to give you the final and not worry about the other 2 weeks of school and things like that. So I want to block off 3 hours because that's how long the meeting usually takes. And it probably will not take that much time because we have so many fewer sports to discuss. But I do want to make sure we have enough time to talk about all of our current sports, what we can add for next semester to make it maybe a little bit more exciting or things like that. And so I'm going to send that email out. Please get back to me as soon as possible. And if you don't know, let me know when you think you might know from your instructors and professors what their plan is for that first week after break. And then also, like I said, start thinking about programming ideas that we may be able to roll out in this with the same restrictions, but different sports, whether it's different video games that you think our participants would like to play, whether it's different individual or team, small team sports. Let us know. We want as many ideas to pick from as possible so that we can roll out something that's not exactly the same as this semester. Any questions really quick about that? Cool. So I will send that email later today or tomorrow. And then lastly, don't forget to clock out so that you get paid for this time. Thank you all very much. Sorry for going over. Appreciate everyone's attention and discussion this morning, and have a great week. See y'all.